pleasure to be able to talk with Oliver today. Oliver is a trainer in the area of project management. He has written 2 books. He's the author of 2 fantastic books, Situational Project Management, The Dynamics of Success and Failure, and Project Business Management. I mean, Oliver, please, I'm still trying to write my first book. You have to give me some mentorship and coaching on that. Yes, and Oliver lives. Yes, Oliver lives in Munich currently, but he's training. You know, he has students right across the globe, Singapore and the US and several other places. Oliver, wow, you know, it's over 10 years since we have known each other. Actually, I met you I met you the first time in Munich while you were doing a presentation. I was so impressed, and ever since then we have kept in contact. It's amazing.
So much since that time. Thank you for allowing me to join you, and it's a pleasure. It's an honor to be here, really, in these difficult times, by the way. So looking forward to this talk.
So Oliver, you have 2 books out. For you, what's situational project management? What's so special about that topic?
That's this one here.
Oh yes.
Yes, that's it. Situation project management. Go back 5-6 years. I got a bit frustrated about people who talk about things like best practices, and it's a bit like the silver bullet in project management. There were a lot of people out there who promise that, and there is something that you can do in all projects. It's always the right thing to do, and it will make all your projects better, and it's proven, and so on. And my own experience as a practitioner, before I went into training in 1995, I was a practitioner for more than 10 years. And my experience was completely different. My experience was the same practice, the same approach, the same method, the same tool that is successful in one moment may fail in another one. I even think PMI is wrong in that. PMI says you have to select a life cycle for a project, which may be more predictive or more agile or whatever it is. And I think it's not even life cycle. It's inside the project that these situations are changing. And I was interested in digging deeper into that. A project is not a static thing. That's not like a production line where you do more or less every day the same thing, and you try to keep change out, and you try to keep surprises out and discoveries out. You want to do the things that you plan to do. Project management is completely different. A lot of the time we are expecting discoveries and surprises, and sometimes we hope for them. In other moments, they are not good for the project. And sometimes we have to do most of the work alone. In other times, we may have hundreds of people working for us, plus contractors and subcontractors and so on. So many different situations. Sometimes we develop something, and other times we implement what has been developed. These are 2 completely different tasks. And this understanding that you can always use the same methods for anything that turns up, the same tool for all tasks, and the same size fits all, and so on. This was not my understanding, and it's still not my understanding. And I wanted to dig a bit deeper into that. So what we did was, not me alone, I had some friends doing that with me. We were a group of 17 people, more than 300 years of combined experience in that, if you add these all together, and women and men, people from Germany, from other locations. So what we did was to just look into the question, how do projects or project situations, how do they differ? And the basic question that these experts were asked was, do you remember a situation when a method, an approach, a technique, whatever it is, a tool, when this was successful in one moment, and now you wanted to reuse it, and this time it failed? And then, by the way, we asked the same question the opposite way. Do you remember situations when techniques which you think, you experienced, they don't work? Suddenly they worked, yeah. Positive experiences, positive discoveries, maybe as well. So that's what we did, and we did then try to identify such situations, and then asked, how can it be that a method, a technique, an approach that is successful in one moment can fail in another one, and vice versa. And this led us to a typology of projects where we could say, okay, there are different types of projects. Maybe one project is more, or project situation is more driven by predictiveness. You have to look into the future. You have to have a clear schedule, have to have clear plans. In other moments, you're on a discovery journey. Development situations are often discoveries. Yeah, creativity is discovery. It's a discovery journey in the own brain or in the brain of a team. So, so we started to develop a typology of that. And the next question was, we wanted to know what methods, what approaches are suitable for which types of projects. So we linked these together as well so that we can give some practical help. If this is your project situation, use this approach, don't use that approach, and so on. And that's the main concern of this book, to give a help in these dynamics that we have in projects. What approach should you use now? What tools should you use now? Yeah.
So, but you mentioned two types of situations. You mentioned predictive and you mentioned dynamic. So my question then is, would you, because now the discussion is around this predictive and we say waterfall project management style. When it is dynamic, we say agile. How do you view that now in terms of your work for situational project management? Is it aligned to that thinking, or is it, something a little different?
That's the core of it all. The core is I have a toolbox with lots of tools in that. When I think that I need I have a nail, then I need the hammer. And when I have a screw, I need the screwdriver. Yeah? I would not use the hammer for the screw, and I would not use the screwdriver for the nails. So I have to understand which tools to use for which situations. And that's the concept, that's the basic concept of situational project management. And another aspect is things can develop their own dynamics, yeah? Like team dynamics. You have a team which is working well, and then something happens in the team, and the relationship between people that was good some time ago maybe gets somewhat bitter, yeah? Gets somewhat much worse, and the team is much less productive. Yeah? So expect dynamics in your teams. Be prepared for things that go well, but also be prepared for things that don't go well, and have your methods and your tools and your mindsets, your approaches in place to manage them all, and expect things to change over the time of a project.
So you mentioned about the team dynamics. How important is leadership, you think, in situational project management? What part does that play?
I have a chapter on that, and I think I disagree here with almost everyone in the field of project management. Most people would say leadership, that's a collection of traits, and you want to lead people, and you have some skills and behaviors and so on that make you a leader. So you are a leader because you want to be a leader. Again, my experience and my understanding is 180-degree around. You do not become a leader because you want to be a leader. If you want it and become it, that's great. But it's the followers who make the leader. It's the followers, it's the people who follow the leader who make you a leader. You can have all these skills and all these behaviors and all these qualities, and people don't follow you, then you are not a leader. And it could well be people make you a leader and you don't even want to know it, want it, and you don't even know it sometimes. You're not aware of that. And maybe you don't want to be a leader at all, but they say, hey, there is someone who knows the way. Andrea knows the way. Andrea knows the way, and we should follow her on the way because it's a good way. By the way, this impression and this perception can always be wrong. We sometimes believe this is a leader, and what we find out, it's a very toxic person, or the person has no idea where to go to. But the perception of people may be different. I think the followers make the leader. There may be some beauty and some skill in being a leader, but I think there is more beauty and there is more skill in being a good follower, because followers make leaders, not vice versa.
Okay.
If leaders make followers, then you have oppression.
Oh yes. So that's more like a dictatorship rule, and you know. All right. So then what is it that followers are looking for in a leader? Since it's about the followers, based on your perspective, it's really about the followers. What makes followers follow a leader? What are some of those things that you think they're looking for?
I think there are many aspects in that. One thing is, it could be just fear or anxiety. Someone who gives me the feeling to be safe and secure, and for other, it may be this is someone who leads us forward. Someone who knows the way into the future, not so much protecting us, but being more forward thinking and more forward walking. And there is someone walking in front of me. This could it be? Safety or something forward looking. In other moments, it could just be there's no one else there. We need someone. We believe we need someone, and that's the only one who seems to know the way. So let's follow this person. It could even be hate. People may become leaders because they hate the same person as the followers do, or the same persons as the followers do.
I see. Interesting.
Be part of that.
Interesting perspective.
We're in Germany. German and Italian, as far as I know, are the two only languages where the word leader has a negative connotation.
Oh, really? That's
Führer in German.
What does it mean in German?
Führer.
Führer.
Führer is leader. And it has a negative connotation for a reason, of course. That's not a coincidence. There's a reason for that. But in German and Italian, I think, are the only two languages where Führer, where leader, Duce, has a negative connotation.
Oh, that's interesting. So, Oliver, that's about situational project management. What about, no, I know you're now on this new venture, I would call it, on project business management. You have an alumni group and there are many followers in that group, right? And so you're doing some awesome work there as well. Now,
I don't do it alone, first of all. There are some great people with me, and you can achieve these things alone. We are a group, but we have a fast-growing community of followers and of people who go with us. And the reason is very simple. Something has been overlooked in both project management and business management, and that's project business management, of course. Project management, as we see it at the moment, as it's described at the moment, is a skill. It's a discipline, an art, how you want to call it, or a skill set. That is internal. The idea of a project is we have a cross-functional team taking people from different departments, divisions, subsidiaries, whatever you like, something internal, we bring them together. We have an internal task force, a project team, and now they make a project, they run the project. And I think that's an important concept. Don't misunderstand me. It's an important concept, and I think we have quite a good understanding today where the problems are for the people involved and how we can help them. I think that's an important thing. And the end of the 20th century was very, very much in project management, was very much influenced by this understanding. We have to help people who are acting cross-functionally, who are often disruptive factors, in the own organization, or at least they are perceived as disruptive factors. Yeah, they disrupt operations, they disrupt the line organization, and so on. So I think we have quite a good understanding what the problems are and how to help these people. But now what happened, in some industries much earlier, in others much later, but it's a measurable trend, is that projects go more and more cross-corporate. Cross-corporate means it's not one organization. It's not happening all inside the borders, the limitations of this organization, not inside the walls of the organization. These projects happen over the walls. Yeah? They are across the borders of the organization because there's a second organization. It may be a contractor, there may be subcontractors, sub-subcontractors. And what we see in project management is that we have not sufficient understanding of what is happening there. And I must say, I don't have the full understanding. I don't think that I am the 100% expert in everything here. I think we have all together, we have to develop more expertise in that. I think I understand it quite well, but 100% understanding, we need a lot of research for that. We need a lot of talking and of discussions, and we need more people involved here. What happens is two things. One thing is we have project managers on contractor side. On contractor side means you have people who do projects as profit centers. The project is not just there to do big change and strategic alignment and new products, new services, all those shiny things. It's a very basic thing where it all begins. This project has to bring money home. It has to be profitable. And another important aspect is you need the money in time. Otherwise, you will not be able to afford to make your customer happy. You don't have the money for that because the money is flowing out of the organization faster than it's flowing in. So you have to talk about cash flow things as well. You have to talk about liquidity questions. These are all things we never discussed in project management, at least not in the more theoretical part and in the methodological part. In reality, it has been around for a long time.
But what I'm hearing, you're making some excellent points, Oliver. But what I'm hearing from you is the project management needs to also be business focused. We need to also become customer centric. We also need to be seeing ourselves as a generator of revenue and income for the organization. Beautiful. Yes.
That's the contractor side. And on the customer side, we have another problem, which is also completely disregarded. If you go to the PMBOK guide or similar books, they follow a concept. In Germany, we have a term for that. It's called the extended workbench, verlängerte Werkbank. This was 30 years ago, the concept in automotive industry, other productive industries. You do all the work, almost all the work, at home, in your own factory, in your own premises, but here and there, you have some work that you give into the hands of someone else. This is the extended workbench of your internal workbench. So this component has to be given somewhere, and the other one as well, and so on. So some work is done outside your organization, and this was the extended workbench, but this was more the exception, not the rule. If you in your project or in your production, at that time more in your production, if you gave something out, you had to justify that. Why are we not making these cylinder blocks by ourselves? Why do we give them to a contractor to make them for us? You had to give a justification for that. Today in automotive industry and other production areas, aerospace and some more, it's the other way around. You give most of the work to contractors and you have to justify it. If you say, no, we are going to do this by ourselves. We have to keep technology in-house and know-how and so on. Whatever the reason is, yeah. But you have to justify why are you doing this in-house. This is production and manufacturing. It's called supply chain management, SCM. And that's a well-developed discipline now there. They have education, they have literature, they have certification, standardization, all those things.
Is that similar to what PMI calls make or buy decision?
At the beginning is the make or buy decision. Yes, it all starts with a make or buy decision. And that's now the point we see in project management as well. We see with a 30 years time lag, a similar development. We see that work that has been done internally in the past is more and more given out to contractors. And by the way, this trend is measurable. This is not something that happens secretly. All you need to do is ask people, do a survey. I did that, and then you get the response. And more people say we are moving out with our project work than we are bringing it back. Yeah? We are procuring it from externals. And now the next thing that happens is, just like in manufacturing, the contractor may not be the organization actually doing the work. They have subcontractors, who in turn may have sub-subcontractors, and so on. As we have these supply chains in manufacturing, we now have a similar thing in projects. I call them project supply networks, because it's not chains, it's highly complex and highly dynamic networks that are built here, that are developing here, that are emerging here. Yeah. And the problem is, no one is there to engineer them. In manufacturing, everything is engineered. If you have a supply chain manager at BMW, from my home, that's not far away, or Mercedes, not far from you, and you ask the supply chain manager, do you know contractor on the fourth tier, the contractor of the contractor of the contractor of the contractor, XYZ, somewhere in, say, Italy. What will they do next month on the 16th in the afternoon at 3 o'clock? Then the supply chain manager will be able to tell you that. The supply chain manager will know who it is, first of all, will be able to tell you what they're doing and how then these components get assembled with other things and get improved and whatever it is, how this wanders over these different tiers until it ends at the production line in Stuttgart or Munich. And when it will end there, and numbers and quality and all these things, it's all there. Yeah. They know it. Yeah. Now look, let's go to project management. What is the situation here? Most customers have no idea who is in their supply networks. They are often not told. I had one example. A customer of mine was a subcontractor, a contractor of a contractor for their direct customer. Yeah, they were very, very lucky about that. They had great business, and it was for their competitor, for their direct competitor. And the competitor didn't even know that they are part of their project. It could happen that you have your direct competitor in your project, in your most important, your lighthouse project, yeah? And you don't even know it. Yeah? Or you could have people there, companies there, that are criminal.
So what's your suggestion around that? I have my competitor who is also in the same project. What's your opinion on how to handle such a situation? Because that can be very dangerous and deadly for the project. Absolutely. So how do we handle such a situation, which happens in reality actually?
For both sides, we are addressing both sides now. For both sides, people have to understand, first of all, what they do is high-risk business. It's high-risk business for all parties involved, for customers, for contractors. The reason is simply, it takes some time to do this work together. And over this time, dependencies grow. You can almost simply, easily replace your contractor or your customer. You have people booked and you expect certain deliveries and certain work to be done for you by a certain point of time. So the dependencies get very, very high. As a contractor, you're dependent on the payment from the customer to go on, not only with the work, but maybe to survive as an organization. So the very first thing is to make people aware of the risks that they are in and that they enter. And the next thing is to give them tools at the end to manage these risks. Now, what you see is the whole thing in the end is about education. We have to begin with education of people involved on both sides, contractor side and customer side. We have to educate them. We have to teach them how to treat a project not as something supporting operations and supporting the business, but being the business. This is now the business. The project for both sides is a piece of business and has to be treated as a piece of business as well. Not everyone likes that, by the way.
Yeah.
But
yeah, and it's understandable. I mean, you also have competitors in business who also have agreements around collaborating on a particular project. So as long as that risk is managed, that's what I'm hearing, and you have tools and techniques to manage that, then that is really the most critical part of the whole process, right?
I think the most critical part is people.
The people.
It's people, because project business has to be built on mutual trust.
Yeah.
Mutual trust, we talked about this earlier. Mutual trust is the biggest booster that we have for projects. There is nothing that can make projects as fast and as effective and cheap, and all these things. Nothing as effective as trust, mutual trust. But the problem is, if you trust the wrong people, they will destroy your project and maybe destroy your organization. You have to trust the right people, and so you have to work with trustworthy people. The beginning always is that you have to have trustworthy business partners. By the way, I just had a talk some days ago with a purchasing manager of BMW, who purchases project customers, who gets contractors, who gets contractors on board. And it was the first thing he said. The first thing is you have to know these people, and their beneficial market aspect in the market is most of the organizations have been there for a while. So you have some long-term relationships with them and relationships with them. But still new companies come in, and an old company may still change. Ownership may change, management may change, and an organization that was not trustworthy now is trustworthy, or the other way around. So it's never a full guarantee for that. But you have to understand the risks, and you have to know how to address these risks. And then the next thing is sometimes these cross-corporate projects, when they run into crisis, you need techniques, you need tools, how to bring them out of crisis.
All right. So your formula then for I was gonna say building trust, but I heard more about getting trustworthy teams and trustworthy contractors and so on. So what would you suggest? What's the best approach? I heard about long-term relationships, but how can I, as a company, an organization, how can I say, yeah, I know that, this contractor is trustworthy? What would be your suggestion around that?
You have to look at the trust record, the honesty record, and trust is not just only honesty, it's also about capability. I have to trust their capability to do things right. So Kierkegaard, the philosopher, once said, you can only understand the past, the future needs to be lived. And I think that's a very, very good statement.
Very profound statement.
Yeah, so you will have to make the decision based on the past. So it's about references. Yeah. By the way, if you ask a contractor, a seller, maybe not be a contractor yet, but if you ask them during business development phase, do you have references? They all have references, yeah. But you get the happy customers, of course. They don't show you the unhappy customers. So this may not be sufficient. I think we need to do more in the future to identify good contractors. And again, it goes vice versa as well. As a contractor, I want to have a trustworthy customer, because my future depends on the customer as well.
It goes both ways.
It goes in both directions. Yeah.
Oh, yes, completely agree. So, Oliver, in terms of, I mean, I know you're a researcher, and I know that you're constantly looking at new ways of improving in the field of project management. What are you seeing as new areas of improvement going forward?
I think the biggest area is to become more situational. In project management, to say this is the situation and this is the way how to address the situation, to learn that. And this is a very difficult task because first of all, it means you need to understand situations. You need to be able to understand the clues of a situation and what it needs and what it favors also. Then you need more than just one technique. It's not enough to be only predictive, yeah? To know how to build a network diagram and swim lane diagrams and all these things. Yeah? You also need to understand the agile world and vice versa. If you are in agile, that's great. But then there are moments when you have to bring long-term predictions and accurate predictions. Accurate does not necessarily say reliable, by the way. They can still be wrong, of course. But you have to do it because it's part of your job and it's part of the business. We need to be able to do both at the same time, and we need to have a well-filled toolbox so that we know the tools that I need are in there. And when I have the hammer, then I can, in my toolbox, then I can push in nails and knock in nails. When I have a screwdriver in, then I can drive in a screw. And by the way, one screwdriver is not enough. I need a set of screwdrivers. And I may also need a set of hammers because for some tasks I need a big one and for others I need a smaller one.
I completely agree with you, Oliver. You need tools in the toolkit. In fact, my company's framework projects, as I told you, and for me, frameworks, it's just about looking at different frameworks, what's the best practices in organization, because for every single framework with different toolkits and tool sets and ways of solving problems, each framework, they came to solve a particular problem. So it's not a solution to every problem. And exactly. So, yes, and so I completely agree with you. You need to have a situational view on the project and know what applies and what doesn't apply in that particular situation. Awesome.
Many managers dream of silver bullets. They dream of the silver bullets, the one technique, the one way that will match every situation and will always allow you to be successful. But that's not what project.
That's not life. That's just not life. Yeah, right. Life it's not black or white. It's gray scales in between, and that's the reality. Oh, Oliver, thank you so much. So, what are your wishes for 2021? I mean, we just started the year. Any special?
Wish number one: I want COVID to go away.
Yes, that's on my list.
I want to be able to travel again. I want to be able to see people again, face to face, not through Zoom or Teams or whatever it is. Yeah, I want to have, I wouldn't say physical contact. That's not how near you get to students, but real life contact with people. I think that's number one. It's a lot of fun doing training, doing seminars with people. And just in project management, you meet so many interesting people. We don't have many stupid people in project management. Most people are very, very intelligent and interesting. So I'm happy to meet them and maybe sit together in the evening in the restaurant or in a hotel and have a meal together and talk with each other. And you learn so much from students. I hope they learn as much from me as well. So that's my wish number one. I think it will take a while into 2021 to really get over that. The other thing I wish for the future is that we all get more connective with the understanding of the things we do. In the end, project business management is an implementation of a model called connective leadership, where the leading task does not end at the walls of the organization. It extends over them, and strongly. And by the way, on the other side, our leaders and their leadership extends maybe into my organization. So connective leaders are leaders who accept that. Yeah? It's like neighbors inviting each other. As neighbors, you can have quarrels at the fence between your areas, between your gardens, or you can invite each other and have a great respectful relationship with each other. And I think that's what we need in leadership as well. We have to be more connective. This is true in politics. This is true in organizations. This is true in projects. So that people all around the world grow the ability to be connective. The opposites of connectivity, by the way, are fiefdomism, nationalism, racism, all those isms, ageism, sexism, whatever we have. These are all examples where people build walls where we should have bridges.
Awesome, Oliver. Awesome. I want to just thank you for your time. Thank you for being here with me. And we look forward to connecting more in the future as well.
Yeah, Andrea. It was a pleasure.
Yeah.
No, as I said, a pleasure. And happy to see you, hopefully.
Soon. Yes, hopefully soon we can meet again. Okay, bye. Bye, Oliver. Bye-bye.